Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for clicking on to this UK Europe video blog for today, the 2nd of November, and the time is around 3:20 p.m. here in Scotland. Well, we've got the next Atlantic cold front sweeping into the UK, and that's going to actually drape down all the way into Portugal and Spain. And so basically we've got a batch of wet and windy weather moving through the UK, down through Portugal and Spain. That will all shift eastwards into the continent over the next 48 hours. And although we're going to see wet and windy conditions up here across the UK, up Scotland, down through England and Wales, we've seen a lot of pretty heavy rain today across the Republic of Ireland, up in the Northern Ireland, with winds increasing as the front pushed through. And we're certainly going to see a very wet night across the majority of the UK. But the main concern actually is down through Portugal and Spain, where that front is sweeping eastward. Ahead in the front, it's actually instigating southerly winds off North Africa, and we are going to see energy move up from the likes of Tunisia, for example, and as that crosses over the very warm waters of the Mediterranean Sea, and it meets up with the energy of the cold front, this, like I say, sweeping through the UK, right down all the way into Portugal and Spain. Very wet, very windy weather is going to sweep across Iberia, producing some very heavy rain. Remember, the environment is more energetic where you've got the warmth, and certainly we've got plenty of warmth, especially down around the Mediterranean. That's acting like a battery for these cold fronts as they sweep east. They become more and more potent and energized thanks to that warm water. But certainly we're going to see plenty of subtropical moist air getting transferred northwards ahead of that cold front. That is going to impact us up here in the UK as well. Concerns for flooding rain across eastern parts of Spain into South France, and as well as that parts of Italy as well. We could be seeing some substantial thunderstorms, and embedded within that we could see several inches of rain in a very short duration of time. So over the next 12 to 24, even 36 hours, we're going to see a very wet spell across southwestern and southern portions of Europe. I'm going to show you the European upper level pattern, and you can see here, folks, a pretty complex area of upper level low pressure. We've got a very large trough over the Atlantic Ocean at the moment, and what that's doing is it's reacting with a very large upper level high across Europe at the moment. The two are fighting. We're seeing the consistent southerly flow, and therefore very mild conditions across the UK. Certainly over the past couple of days we've seen pretty pleasant conditions throughout, sunshine, and certainly not too bad for this time of year temperature wise. But you can see here, folks, the deep trough. Look at that, look at how far south the jet stream is basically down as far south as Spain, and a lot of energy is associated with this jet. We've got very cold air up across Greenland, and very mild air across the majority of the continent. And what that's doing is it's energizing that jet stream in between. When you put together a cold air mass along with a warmer mass, you get a very, very strong jet stream to try and counteract that imbalance, so to speak. But there's a few interesting factors here. The front going to sweep eastwards across Iberia, and then of course as that front sweeps eastward, we see the reinforcing push of southerly air. As that south wind blows across those warm waters of the Mediterranean, we're going to be seeing that energy, that lift, enhancement of the lift in the atmosphere, producing stronger thunderstorms, heavier rainfall, and that will be a problem particularly across southern and eastern portions of Spain, southern France, on into through Sicily, Italy, and even into the Balkans, up through Croatia and whatnot. We could be seeing some tremendous amounts of rain over the next 48 hours. Of course, we'll see the front passing through the UK. We could be seeing an area of persistent, at times heavy rain, as well as some pretty strong gusty winds as well to accompany that. But I'm going to continue to skip through here to Saturday, and interesting features here. We see the persistency in the mild conditions across Europe, but look at how cold this air mass is here. This is a trough starting to deepen, and it's going to drift in the southern parts of Europe. And by early next week, folks, we're looking at the first signs of true winter in places like St. Petersburg, Moscow, down into Kiev. Certainly temperatures by next week, folks, in Moscow won't get above freezing. Nighttime lows, -7 to perhaps even -10. So certainly winter is arriving in eastern parts of Europe next week. I'm going to skip ahead to Monday and look at the trough. Look at the deep blue colours here, indicating the frigid air that is now starting to bleed southwards. Look at the trough across the southwestern Europe. You can see here actually the upper level trough becomes cut off, divorced from the main jet stream. So we could be seeing a fairly unsettled, wet, windy week next week, for a good part of next week, in fact, across Spain, up through southern France into Italy. Unsettled conditions for sure over the Mediterranean basin. And you can see here the very, very cold air now starting to push southwards over Western Asia as well as Eastern Europe. You can see the mild conditions getting pumped all the way up into Scandinavia. That ridge getting pumped north is forcing the cold air from the north southwards. And we've got a pretty interesting week ahead next week. Skipping through till next Wednesday, and you can see here the easing the cold over Moscow. However, look at how the trough is now starting to dig in through eastern parts of Scandinavia. So Sweden and Finland, you're going to be seeing cold, snowy conditions, but across western parts of Europe, you can see the mild air continue. We've got a nice ridge of high pressure over the UK. I had a chap asking me, is there going to be any cool weather next week for the UK and Western Europe? That will not be the case. We're going to remain unsettled through at least the 12th of November. So next week, more settled conditions across the UK and northwest Europe. Very